There is a psychological law that is so powerful, yet so simple, that it has been guarded as a secret among the elite masters of industry and history for centuries. It is the law that determines, with absolute mathematical precision, whether a man lives in the shadows of mediocrity or stands in the blazing sun of greatness. This law is the invisible divide between the 98% who drift and the 2% who command. It states that you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. Most people spend their entire lives waiting. They wait for permission to be great. They wait for a title to feel important. They wait for money to feel wealthy. They wait for courage to take action. But they have the equation backwards. The universe does not reward those who wait. It rewards those who decree. When you act as if you already belong at the top, your mind undergoes a chemical and spiritual transformation. It stops looking for reasons why you cannot succeed and starts finding the hidden pathways to your destination. You begin to speak differently, not with the hesitation of a beggar, but with the authority of a commander. You walk with clarity. You attract respect not because you demand it, but because you radiate it. This is the transformation from doubting to doing. The target is the life you know you are meant to live, and the stakes are nothing less than your destiny. If you keep waiting to feel ready, you might wait forever. The graveyard of potential is filled with people who are waiting for the perfect time, waiting for the economy to improve, waiting for their fear to subside. But if you move now, if you assume the identity of the person you wish to be right this second, you change everything. In the next hour, we are going to dismantle the illusion of limitation. We are going to walk through the laboratory of the human mind and unlock the specific mindset that attracts success like a magnet. This mindset defeats your limitations not by fighting them, but by rendering them irrelevant. You must understand that every limitation a person perceives is not carved into the structure of the world, nor embedded into the nature of reality. It is manufactured piece by piece within the mind. The boundaries that seem immovable, the ceilings that feel unbreakable, and the walls that stand tall before one's dreams are not external forces. They are internal constructs, mental barricades built by the ghosts of fear and habits of small thinking. And once this truth is understood in its full depth, life itself transforms. Limitations are not facts. Our beliefs can be changed. They are not steel bars of a prison. They are shadows dissipating the moment the light of courageous thought is shone upon them. Let us explore deeply the nature of this law of decree. The word decree implies a sovereign command, an order given by an authority that cannot be questioned. In the kingdom of your life, you are the monarch, yet most people live as if they are the peasant. They beg life for scraps. They ask, "May I have a little success? May I have a little happiness?" And life, reflecting their own uncertainty, gives them exactly what they expect, very little. The law of decree operates on the frequency of identity. It requires you to shift your internal setting from hoping to knowing. When a king walks into a room, he does not need to tell people he is the king. His posture declares it. His stride declares it. His silence declares it. He acts as if the throne is already his, even if he is standing in a muddy field. This is the secret of the self-made titans of history. Before Andrew Carnegie was the Steel King, he was a bobbin boy in a factory, but in his mind he was already a master of industry. He did not wait for the wealth to arrive to feel wealthy. He cultivated the feeling of wealth, which then compelled the physical reality to manifest. This is what it means to act as if you cannot fail. It is not delusion. It is the ultimate form of strategic psychology. The tragedy of the modern age is that we have separated the being from the doing. We are taught that we must have something before we can do something, and only then can we be something. We think, once I have $1 million, then I will do the things rich people do, and then I will be successful. This is the formula of the drifter. It is the formula of failure. The law of decree reverses this. You must be the person first. You must be successful in your mindset, in your habits, in your speech, and in your standards today, while your bank account is empty. Then, from that state of being, you do the work of a successful person. And finally, as a natural consequence, you have the results. You must occupy the psychology of the winner before you win. You must act as if the victory is inevitable. When you do this, you signal to your subconscious mind that there is no plan B. You burn the bridges of retreat. Your brain, realizing that you are committed to this new identity, goes into hyperdrive. It begins to filter the world differently. It notices opportunities it previously ignored. It gives you the energy to work harder and longer. It projects a charisma that draws allies to your cause. This is not magic. It is the mechanics of the human operating system. But why is this so difficult? Why do 98% of people fail to apply this law? It is because of the manufactured limitations we spoke of. Let us dissect these limitations. From the moment you were born, you were programmed. You were told what is realistic. You were told to stay in line, to be safe, to not rock the boat. You were taught that failure is shameful. These messages were laid down in your mind like bricks, building a wall between you and your potential. Over time, you began to mistake this wall for the horizon. You began to believe that you could not go further because the wall was there. But the wall is a lie. It is a mental construct. When you act as if you cannot fail, you are essentially taking a sledgehammer to this wall. You are daring to step into the unknown. The person who allows fear to rule their thoughts becomes enslaved to these imaginary barriers. They see a risk and call it a danger. They see a challenge and call it a problem. They see a delay and call it a defeat. But the one who rises with faith in their own capacity sees through the illusion. They see the wall for what it is, a shadow. Consider the concept of acting as if. This is often dismissed as faking it, but that is a shallow interpretation. To act as if is to practice the vibration of your future self. It is a rehearsal for destiny. Imagine an actor preparing for a role. If he is to play a courageous general, he does not just read the lines. He changes his physiology, he stands taller, he deepens his voice, he adopts the mindset of a warrior. After weeks of rehearsal, he does not just play the general, he becomes the general. His brain adopts the neural pathways of courage. You are the actor in the play of your life, but up until now, you have been playing the role of the extra, the victim, the hesitant observer. It is time to recast yourself. It is time to audition for the lead role. How would the version of you who has already achieved your dreams walk? How would they speak? How would they handle a setback? Would they crumble? No. They would look at the setback with a steely gaze and move forward. You must begin to embody that character now. You must dress like them, think like them, and work like them. When you do this, the cognitive dissonance in your brain forces your reality to catch up with your identity. We must also address the vibration of authority. When you act as if you belong at the top, you emit a frequency of authority. Humans are social animals. We are wired to respond to hierarchy and confidence. When a person walks into a room with clarity and certainty, others instinctively step aside. They instinctively trust this person. They offer opportunities to this person. This is not because the person is better or smarter, but because they have signaled that they know where they are going. The world stands aside for the man who knows where he is going. Conversely, the world blocks the path of the man who hesitates. If you are unsure of your value, the world will reflect that uncertainty back to you. You will be underpaid, overlooked, and undervalued. This is not the world's fault. It is your fault. You have not decreed your value. You have not acted as if you are worthy. You have accepted the bargain price when you could have demanded the premium. The law of decree states that you set the price tag on your own soul. If you price yourself cheap, the world will not raise the price. You must raise it. Let us go deeper into the neuroscience of this transformation. Your brain has a filter called the reticular activating system, or RAS. This system filters the millions of bits of data that flood your senses every second, letting in only what it deems important. When you live in a state of doubt and fear, your RAS is programmed to look for danger, for scarcity, for reasons to stop. It literally blinds you to opportunity. You could be standing next to the chance of a lifetime and not see it because your brain is set to survival mode. But when you switch your setting to the law of decree, when you act as if you cannot fail, you reprogram. The RAS begins to hunt for evidence to support this new identity. You start seeing connections you missed. You hear conversations that spark ideas. You read books that give you answers. The world hasn't changed. Your filter has changed. You are now tuning into the frequency of abundance. This is why it seems like luck follows the bold. It is not luck, it is attention. It is the prepared mind meeting the opportunity that was there all along. But be warned, the transition period is the most dangerous time. When you first decide to apply the law of decree, when you first start acting as if you are fearless, your old self will rebel. The ghosts of your past programming will rise up and scream. They will say, "Who do you think you are? You are a fraud. You are going to fail. Everyone is laughing at you." This is the resistance. This is the weight of the old identity trying to pull you back into the gravity of mediocrity. Most people hit this resistance and retreat. They say, "This feels uncomfortable. I should go back to being safe." You must understand that this discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong, it is a sign that you are doing something right. Growth is painful. Shedding a skin is painful. The butterfly struggles to escape the cocoon. If you want to fly, you must endure the struggle of the transition. You must look at that voice of doubt and say, "I hear you, but I no longer obey you." You must persist in your new role until the role becomes your reality. This is the test of the master. The law of decree also governs your speech. Words are not just sounds. They are containers of power. They are instructions to the subconscious mind. The drifter speaks the language of the victim. He says, "I'll try, I hope, if only, I can't." These words act as decrees of failure. They program the mind to expect defeat. The master speaks the language of the architect. He says, "I will, I am, it is done, I create." When you act as if you belong at the top, your vocabulary changes. You eliminate the words of hesitation. You stop explaining yourself to people who do not matter. You stop apologizing for your ambition. You speak with precision and intent. Napoleon Hill taught that a definite chief aim must be written down and spoken aloud. Why? Because the spoken word is the bridge between the invisible thought and the visible action. When you declare, "I am the master of my fate," you are issuing a command to the universe. You are vibrating the web of reality. If you speak weakness, you will attract weak circumstances. If you speak power, you will attract powerful circumstances. Watch your tongue, for it is the rudder of your ship. Furthermore, we must understand the concept of clarity of purpose. You cannot act as if you belong at the top if you do not know where the top is. The drifter has no target, and therefore he can never score a bullseye. He moves in circles, busy but going nowhere. The master has a target that is laser-focused. He knows exactly what he wants, why he wants it, and when he intends to get it. This clarity gives him a posture of assurance. Have you ever watched a person walking through a crowd who is late for an important meeting? They move fast, their eyes are up, and they weave through the obstacles. The crowd parts for them. Now watch a tourist who is lost. They stop, they look around, they hesitate, and they get bumped into. Life is a crowd. If you are a tourist, you will get bumped. If you are on a mission, the crowd will part. Acting as if you cannot fail means having a plan so clear that you do not need to hesitate. It means having a vision so compelling that it pulls you forward through the fear. There is a spiritual dimension to this law as well. It connects to the principle of faith. Faith is not a passive wish. It is an active state of mind. It is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. To act as if you cannot fail is the highest demonstration of faith. It is saying to the infinite intelligence, "I trust in the powers you have given me. I trust that if I move, the way will appear." When you take a step into the darkness, trusting that the ground will be there, you activate forces that the skeptic never sees. The skeptic wants to see the ground before he steps. The man of faith steps, and the ground appears. This is the difference between the builder and the observer. The builder trusts the blueprint before the house is built. You are the architect of your life. Your thoughts are the blueprint. Your actions are the bricks. If you wait to see the house before you lay the brick, you will die homeless. You must lay the brick in faith. You must act as if the structure is already rising. Let us return to the idea of internal constructs. We mentioned that limitations are manufactured. Who manufactures them? You do. But more specifically, your ego manufactures them to keep you safe. The ego loves the known, even if the known is miserable. It hates the unknown, even if the unknown is paradise. The ego whispers, "Don't apply for that job. you'll be rejected. Don't start that business, you'll go broke. Don't speak up, you'll sound stupid. These are the walls. Acting as if you cannot fail is a direct declaration of war against the fragile ego. It is the higher self taking control. It is the conscious decision to value growth over safety. When you act fearlessly, you are effectively telling your ego, your services as a protector are no longer required. I am in charge now. This is a terrifying liberation. It feels like jumping off a cliff, but it is actually learning to fly. The boundaries that seemed immovable were just shadows cast by your own smallness. When you stand up, the shadows shorten. When you fly, the shadows disappear. Consider the atmosphere of success. Every person carries an atmosphere around them. Some people carry an atmosphere of gloom, of heaviness, of defeat. When they walk into a room, the energy drops. Others carry an atmosphere of light, of possibility, of victory. When they walk in, the energy rises. The law of decree allows you to choose your atmosphere. By acting as if you are already successful, you generate an atmosphere of success. This atmosphere is magnetic. It attracts the right people, the mentors, the partners, the clients. People want to be around a winner. They want to be warmed by the fire of your certainty. If you are cold, damp, and doubting, you repel the very people who could help you. You must cultivate the atmosphere of the winner before the trophy is in your hand. You must smile with the confidence of the victor while you are still in the trenches. You must be the lighthouse, not the shipwreck. This brings us to the ultimate stakes. Why does this matter? Why not just be content with a small life? Because deep down you know you were made for more. There is a fire within you that refuses to be extinguished. It is the seed of potential that the Creator planted in your soul. To ignore this seed is the greatest sin against yourself. To live a life smaller than you are capable of is to insult the gift of life. The target is the life you know you are meant to live. The stakes are your happiness, your fulfillment, and your legacy. If you fail to apply the law of decree, you do not just lose money or status, you lose yourself. You become a shadow of who you could have been. You reach the end of your days with the bitter taste of regret, wondering, what if? What if I had acted? What if I had believed? What if I had stepped forward? There is no pain greater than the pain of unfulfilled potential. Acting as if you cannot fail is the antidote to regret. It ensures that win or lose, you played the game with all your heart. It ensures that you left nothing on the table. We are about to embark on a journey through the specific applications of this law. We will see how Hannibal used it to cross the Alps when the world said it was impossible. We will see how Carnegie used it to build an empire from nothing. We will see how Roosevelt used it to rebuild his own body and will. These are not just stories, they are maps. They show us the terrain of greatness. But before we can read the map, you must decide to take the journey. You must make a decree right now, in the privacy of your own mind. You must say, from this moment forward, I refuse to be a victim of my circumstances. I refuse to be a prisoner of my past. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I will walk, talk, think, and act as if I cannot fail. Hold this decree in your mind. Let it sink into the marrow of your bones. Let it rewrite your DNA. The person you were yesterday is dead. The person you are becoming is being born in this moment of decision. The old limitations are fading. The new horizon is opening. You are not a cork bobbing in the ocean. You are the ship, you are the captain, and you are the ocean itself. The power to shape reality is in your hands, but it remains dormant until you pick it up and use it. The key is action, courageous, purposeful, unrelenting action. As we move into the first chapter, remember this. The world is a mirror. If you frown at it, it frowns back. If you smile at it, it smiles back. If you fear it, it terrifies you. If you command it, it obeys you. It is time to stop asking and start commanding. It is time to stop waiting and start being. It is time to act as if the limits do not exist. Because, in the ultimate reality of the human spirit, they don't. You are limitless, but only action will prove it. Let us now turn to the snow-capped peaks of the Alps and witness this law in its most dramatic form. Let us learn from Hannibal what it means to conquer the impossible. We now stand at the foot of the mountain. In the previous section, We establish the law of decree, the truth that you must be the person before you can have the result. Now we must take that law and apply it to the most difficult terrain imaginable. We must discuss the nature of the impossible. It is a word found often in the dictionary of fools, but never in the vocabulary of a master. To understand the mechanics of conquering the impossible, we must look back across the centuries to the year 218 BC, to the life of a man who turned the word impossible into a weapon of victory. We speak of Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general who did not just fight a war, but who rearranged the geography of what the human mind believed was achievable. At that time, Rome was not just a city, it was an invincible titan. It towered over the Mediterranean world, consuming nations, dictating laws, and crushing resistance. Rome was the superpower, and Carthage was the underdog. No one dared to strike Rome in its own home. The Roman Empire was protected by the greatest natural fortress in the world, the Alps. These mountains were considered the walls of the gods, treacherous, frozen, impassable, and deadly. To the military strategists of the time, the idea of marching an army across the Alps was not a strategy, it was suicide. It was madness. Nature itself stood as a guardian against invasion. But Hannibal Barca did not look at the Alps with the eyes of a drifter. He did not look at the snow and the ice with the eyes of a tourist or a victim. He looked with the eyes of a man possessed by a definite major purpose. His purpose was the salvation of his people and the checking of Roman tyranny. This purpose was so hot, so burning, so all-consuming that it melted the ice of fear in his own mind before he ever stepped foot on the mountain. We must pause here and analyze the psychology of the barrier. In your life, you have Alps. Everyone does. For you, the Alps might be a massive financial debt that seems unpayable. It might be a medical diagnosis that says incurable. It might be a lack of education, a broken family, or a paralyzing fear of public failure. To the average mind, these barriers look exactly like the Alps looked to the Romans, solid, permanent, and impassable. The average mind looks at the barrier and says, "It cannot be done." The average mind seeks a path of least resistance, but the Hannibal principle teaches us that the path of least resistance leads only to the valley of mediocrity. The path to greatness always goes over the mountain. Let us walk with Hannibal for a moment. Imagine the scene. He gathers his generals. He lays out the map. He points to the jagged peaks of the Alps and says, "We go that way." Imagine the silence in the room. Imagine the doubt. His advisors, men of logic and reason, surely told him he was insane. They listed the facts, the freezing temperatures, the hostile tribes inhabiting the cliffs, the lack of food, the sheer impossibility of moving massive war elephants through narrow, icy passes. They presented him with a mountain of information, but Hannibal possessed the faculty of accurate thinking. He separated the information from the facts. The information was that it would be hard. The fact was that it was the only way to surprise Rome and win the war. He understood that if he did what was easy, he would die like everyone else. If he did the impossible, he would become immortal. When his generals told him, "It is impossible to cross these mountains," Hannibal famously replied with a sentence that should be engraved on the heart of every person seeking self-mastery. Aut viam inveniam aut faciem. I will either find a way or I will make one. Analyze that statement. I will find a way or I will make one. This is not merely a slogan, it is a complete psychological operating system. It acknowledges two possibilities, and neither of them is failure. The first possibility is finding a way. This appeals to the faculty of resourcefulness. It means looking for the hidden path, the secret trail, the opportunity that others have missed because they were too busy complaining. The mastermind knows that the universe is full of hidden doors, but they only reveal themselves to the one who is knocking violently. The second possibility is making a way. This is even more profound. This appeals to the faculty of creation. It means that if no door exists, you pick up a sledgehammer and you build one. If no bridge exists, you cut down the trees and lay the timber. It implies that the human will is superior to the physical environment. It implies that your determination is harder than the rock and colder than the ice. When you adopt this mindset, you stop looking for permission from the world to succeed. You stop waiting for the conditions to be perfect. You realize that you are the condition. The journey began. It was not paved with ease. It was carved through snow, ice, fear, and treacherous terrain. Men died. Elephants fell off cliffs. The cold was biting, turning fingers black and slowing the blood. The hostile tribes rolled massive boulders down on the army from the high ground. Every single day, the environment screamed, "Stop!" Every single day, the logic of the world screamed, "Turn back!" But Hannibal refused to let fear define his fate. What fueled this audacity? It was the complete absence of the fear of failure. Hannibal was not ignorant of his difficulties. He simply refused to worship them. He refused to bow down to the idol of impossibility. He understood that reality is pliable. He knew that the morale of his army depended entirely on his own certainty. If he flickered, even for a moment, the army would collapse. This brings us to the lesson of transferred faith. In any leadership situation, whether you are leading a company, a family, or just yourself, the leader acts as the battery. If the leader is charged with unwavering faith, that charge transfers to everyone else. Hannibal's soldiers did not climb the Alps because they believed they could. They climbed because they believed Hannibal could. He loaned them his faith until they found their own. You must ask yourself, who is borrowing faith from you? Your children? Your employees? Your spouse? If your battery is dead, if you are consumed by doubt and complaining about how impossible the economy is, you are leading them into the valley of defeat. But if you stand in front of your personal Alps and declare, "We will make a way," you infuse them with a power they did not know they had. You must become the source of certainty in an uncertain world. This is the burden of command, but it is also the privilege of power. You cannot outsource your belief. You must manufacture it internally and radiate it externally. When Hannibal stood on the peaks surrounded by snow, looking down at the green plains of Italy, he did not talk about the cold. He talked about the victory. He visualized the end result so clearly that his freezing soldiers felt the warmth of Rome before they even descended. This is the power of vision. Vision is not seeing things as they are. It is seeing things as they must become. Let us go deeper into the internal Alps. The physical mountains are hard, yes, but the mental mountains are harder. The highest peak you will ever climb is the peak of your own self-limitation. There is a voice in your head, the voice of the drifter, that loves the word impossible. It loves that word because it is a release from responsibility. If something is impossible, you don't have to try, you don't have to stretch. You can sit on the couch and be a victim with a clear conscience. I can't start a business, the market is saturated. Impossible. I can't lose weight, it's my genetics. Impossible. I can't find love, all the good ones are gone. Impossible. Do you hear the drifter? He is using the word impossible as a shield to protect his ego from the pain of effort. The Hannibal principle shatters this shield. It strips away the excuse. It forces you to look in the mirror and admit that it is not impossible. It is just hard. And hard is not a reason to stop. Hard is the price of admission to the life you want. We must also discuss the concept of burn the wagons. When Hannibal crossed the Alps, he effectively cut off his line of retreat. There was no going back. The passes were blocked by snow and enemies behind him. The only way out was forward. This aligns with the principle we discussed earlier. The brain functions at its highest capacity only when there is no safety net. When you have a plan B, your plan A is doomed to mediocrity. The subconscious mind is an efficiency machine. If it knows there is an easier path, quitting, it will constantly nudge you toward it. But when you are on the mountain, and the bridge behind you is burned, the subconscious realizes, we must win, or we must die. This triggers a state of hyperfocus and resilience that is inaccessible to the comfortable man. You must engineer this state in your life. You must commit to your goal so fully that retreat is not an option. You must tell the universe, I am crossing this mountain, or my bones will be buried on it. This level of resolve is terrifying to the ghost of fear. Fear flees from commitment. Consider the role of innovative adaptation. Hannibal did not just use brute force, he used intelligence. When massive boulders blocked the path, he ordered his men to heat the rocks with fire and then pour vinegar on them to crack the stone. He used science. He used leverage. He used every tool at his disposal. The lesson here is that making a way requires flexibility. You cannot be rigid in your methods, only in your goal. If the rock won't move, melt it. If the door won't open, pick the lock. If the lock won't pick, remove the hinges. The drifter tries one way, fails, and says, "It wasn't meant to be." The master tries 1,000 ways and says, "I haven't figured it out yet." The difference is not in the obstacle. The difference is in the persistence of the adaptation. You must be like water fluid, adaptable, yet capable of eroding the hardest stone over time. Now, let us apply the Hannibal principle to the modern world. You are not fighting Rome, but you are fighting mediocrity. You are fighting a system designed to keep you small. You are fighting the gravity of your own past habits. Let's say your Alp is financial freedom. The world tells you it's impossible to become wealthy without a degree, or without rich parents, or in this economy. That is the mountain. The Hannibal principle demands that you look at that mountain and respect its height, but deny its authority. You say, "I will find a way." You start reading books on finance. You start learning a high-income skill. You start networking with people who are already on the other side of the mountain. You cut your expenses. You invest your energy. You fail, you slip, you get cold, but you do not turn back. You adapt. You heat the rocks of poverty with the fire of your desire. You crack the stone of ignorance with the vinegar of education. And one day, you stand on the summit. You look down at the life of abundance that was always there, waiting for the person who refused to turn back. Or perhaps your Alp is a broken relationship or a lonely heart. The pain of rejection can feel colder than the alpine snow. The belief that I am unlovable is a massive boulder blocking your path. How do you apply the principle? You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You stop waiting for the snow to melt. You start the march. You begin to work on yourself. You cultivate self-love. You build a life so interesting and vibrant that it becomes irresistible. You refuse to accept the narrative of the victim. You make a way to happiness by becoming the source of your own happiness. You cross the mountain of grief and find the plains of peace on the other side. The principle is universal. It applies to health, to business, to art, to love. The mountain changes, but the method remains the same. Definite purpose, unwavering faith, and massive action. We must also confront the naysayers. In Hannibal's time, there were surely people back in Carthage who mocked him. "Look at that fool," they said. "He is marching to his death. He thinks he is greater than the gods." These are the voices of the 98%. They are the spectators in the arena of life. They sit in the cheap seats and criticize the gladiator who is bleeding in the sand. You will have these people in your life. They will be your friends, your family, your co-workers. They will list all the reasons why you will fail. They will present you with statistics on how many businesses fail, how many artists starve, how risky it is to change. You must understand that they are not speaking about your reality. They are speaking about their own limitations. They are terrified that if you cross the Alps, their excuse for staying in the valley will be destroyed. Your success shines a light on their cowardice. Do not hate them. Do not argue with them. Just march. Leave them in Carthage while you take Rome. Their opinions cannot survive the altitude of your altitude. There is a metaphysical aspect to this principle as well. Napoleon Hill often spoke of the ether and the interconnectedness of all minds. When a human being generates a thought of impossibility, they align themselves with the forces of failure. They attract difficulty. But when a human being generates a thought of absolute determination, they align themselves with the forces of creation. The universe seems to conspire to help the person who is determined not to quit. It is as if nature tests you. It throws a storm at you and asks, "Are you serious?" If you turn back, nature says, "Okay, just checking." But if you keep walking through the storm, nature says, "Pass, let him through." The Alps opened for Hannibal because he proved he was worthy of the passage. The obstacles in your life are not stop signs. They are tests of worthiness. They are asking, how bad do you want this? If you want it badly enough to suffer for it, to bleed for it, to freeze for it, then you will have it. The price of greatness is responsibility. The price of the passage is persistence. Let us visualize the moment of victory. Imagine Hannibal descending into Italy, the shock of the Romans. The sheer disbelief that someone had done the impossible. That moment of shock is what you are working for. You are working for the moment when your critics look at your life and say, "How did he do that? I thought he was finished. I thought she was broke." You want to be the anomaly. You want to be the glitch in the matrix of mediocrity. But you cannot have the victory without the climb. You cannot have the story without the struggle. The Hannibal principle is a call to fall in love with the struggle. To see the cold wind not as an enemy but as a sparring partner. To see the steep cliff not as a barrier but as a ladder. So, here is your practical assignment for this chapter. I want you to identify your Alps. What is the one thing in your life right now that you have labeled impossible or too hard? Write it down. Look at it. Now, cross out the word impossible and write necessary. Shift your perspective. It is not impossible. It is necessary for your growth. Then write down Hannibal's decree. I will find a way, or I will make one. List 3 ways you can find a path. Resources, help, knowledge. List 3 ways you can make a path. Creation, innovation, brute work. And then, take the first step. Do not look at the summit. Look at your feet. Take 1 step into the snow, then another, then another. Do not worry about the elephants. Worry about your own will. Remember, every limitation you perceive is a lie. The only true limit is the one you place on your own imagination. The world is pliable. History is written by the unreasonable. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. Be unreasonable. Be like Hannibal. Look at the mountains that block your path and smile, because you know something the mountains don't. You know that you are moving, and they are standing still. You know that rock and ice cannot defeat the human spirit on fire with a purpose. As we close this chapter, let the image of the Alps remain in your mind, not as a symbol of fear, but as a symbol of conquest. Whatever your mountain is, it is waiting for you to climb it. It is waiting to yield to you. But it will only yield if you decide, right now, with absolute finality, that you will not stop until you are on the other side. The view from the top is reserved for those who refuse to stop climbing. Now, let us move from the frozen peaks of determination to the laboratory of the mind, where we will learn the alchemy of action, how to turn the lead of failure into the gold of success. We have crossed the Alps of the mind. We have made the decree that we will find a way or make one. But now we must descend from the mountain of philosophy into the valley of execution. It is here, in the grit and the grime of daily life, that the true miracle occurs. We are going to speak now of the alchemy of action. In ancient times, alchemists sought the philosopher's stone, a mythical substance that could turn base metals like lead into precious gold. Most died searching for it, never realizing that the true alchemy was not in the metal, but in the mind. The true alchemy is the ability to take the heavy, dark lead of failure, rejection, and fear, and transmute it through the fire of action into the pure gold of wisdom and success. This is the secret that separates the dreamer from the achiever. The dreamer waits for the gold to appear. The achiever mines the lead and burns it until it shines. We must understand that action is not merely the result of thought. Action is the editor of thought. You can think you are brave, but you only know you are brave when you act. You can think you are capable, but you only prove you are capable when you move. Action is the only truth serum that exists. Fear is a liar. It whispers that you are not ready, not worthy, not capable. It tells you that failure is dangerous, that rejection is death. It creates a hallucination of disaster that feels so real you can taste it. But let us look at the truth through the lives of 2 men who mastered this alchemy, Andrew Carnegie and Alexander Graham Bell. These men understood that failure is education and rejection is redirection. Both are merely steps on the staircase of greatness. The only real danger in life is inaction, the silent killer of dreams. To dissolve limitations, one must act. Not wait, not hope, not pray for a better moment, but act. Action is the alchemy that transforms the impossible into the inevitable. Let us enter the world of Andrew Carnegie. Before he was the Steel King of America, before his name was plastered on libraries and halls across the globe, he was a bobbin boy in a cotton factory. He was a poor Scottish immigrant, working long hours for pennies, surrounded by the noise and dirt of the Industrial Revolution. By all logical metrics, his destiny was to remain a laborer. The Alps of poverty were high and steep, but Carnegie possessed a secret. He did not wait to feel like a tycoon before he acted like one. He understood that wealth is not just money. Wealth is a state of mind that eventually materializes as money. Even when his pockets were empty, his mind was full. He acted with a hunger that intimidated those around him. He did not wait for opportunities to be handed to him. He hunted them. Carnegie's alchemy was the transmutation of time into knowledge. While other boys spent their evenings playing or resting, Carnegie spent his evenings investing in himself. He surrounded himself with books. He surrounded himself with men of wisdom. This brings us to the principle of the mastermind. Carnegie realized early on that he did not need to know everything. He just needed to be the focal point for the energy of those who did know. He acted boldly to form alliances. Imagine the audacity of a poor boy reaching out to men of influence, asking questions, offering value, forcing his way into the room. The drifter would say, "I am not ready to talk to these men. I don't have the right clothes. I don't have the status." Carnegie acted as if he belonged in the room, and because he acted that way, the room accepted him. He unlocked the power of acting as if. This is not pretense. It is a preview of future reality. He was projecting his future self into the present moment. The lesson from Carnegie is that you do not need capital to start. You need organized energy. Action generates capital. When you move with decision, you create a vacuum that pulls resources towards you. People want to back a moving car, not a parked one. If you are sitting still, analyzing your business plan for the 10th time, no investors are coming. No partners are interested. But if you are moving, even if you are moving imperfectly, you create momentum. Momentum is the currency of the alchemist. When you have momentum, problems that would crush a stationary person simply bounce off you. You smash through obstacles because your mass times your velocity gives you force. Carnegie was a force. He made mistakes, certainly. He faced strikes, financial panics, and betrayals. But he never stopped the machine of action. He transmuted every setback into a lesson on efficiency. He turned the lead of chaos into the gold of organized industry. Now, let us shift our gaze to the laboratory of Alexander Graham Bell. If Carnegie represents the alchemy of industry, Bell represents the alchemy of invention. His vision was to transmit the human voice across a wire. Today, this seems obvious. In his time, it was considered witchcraft or madness. The Alps facing Bell were the Alps of ridicule. The scientific community mocked him. Potential investors laughed at him. They called his invention a toy. They said it had no commercial value. Imagine the weight of that rejection. Imagine working in a lonely lab, night after night, with nothing to show for it but silence. The ghost of fear would whisper, "Give up, Alexander. You are a fool. Go get a real job." But Bell possessed the alchemist mindset regarding failure. To the drifter, failure is a verdict. It is a judge slamming a gavel and saying, "You are not good enough." To the master, failure is data. It is a scientist noting a result in a journal. When Bell's prototype failed to transmit sound, he did not cry. He did not spiral into depression. He analyzed. He asked, why? He treated the failure as a conversation with nature. Nature was telling him, not this way, try that way. Each error was a teacher. Each delay was a sharpening stone. His setbacks became stepping stones. He understood that he was not failing. He was discovering the physics of sound through the process of elimination. This is a profound shift in perspective. When you fear failure, you avoid action. When you respect failure as a teacher, you seek action. You want to fail faster so you can learn sooner. Bell's persistence is a testament to the fact that bold action must be unburdened by the need for guarantees. The drifter demands a guarantee. I will only try if I know it will work. The master knows that the only guarantee is that if you do nothing, nothing will happen. Bell acted without a map. He built the wings on the way down. And because he refused to stop, because he refused to let the opinions of small minds stop his great work, he broke through. The silence on the wire was broken by a voice. "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." That sentence changed the world. It collapsed distance. It connected humanity. But that sentence would never have been spoken if Bell had waited for permission. He transmuted the lead of isolation into the gold of connection. What fuels this kind of alchemy? It is the refusal to betray one's vision. It is the discipline to act in the face of fear, because one understands that the fear is not real. Only the dream is. You are greater than any obstacle. This is not a hopeful mantra. It is a truth written into your very being. Every obstacle, every challenge, every difficulty is simply an invitation to rise. And those who rise, who act, who persist, discover that the walls were never real. The ceilings were illusions, the boundaries were thoughts. There is a fire within every person, a silent, indestructible will. It sleeps under the weight of doubt, but it awakens when summoned by purposeful action. Let us analyze the psychology of readiness. Why do we wait? Why do we hesitate? We tell ourselves we are preparing. We are getting ready. But often, getting ready is just a sophisticated form of hiding. It is procrastination dressed up in a suit. We are terrified that if we act and fail, our inadequacy will be exposed. So we stay in the preparation phase where we are safe. But safety is the enemy of alchemy. You cannot transmute lead into gold if you never put the lead in the fire. You must be willing to get burned. You must be willing to look foolish. The alchemist knows that the amateur practices until he gets it right. The professional practices until he cannot get it wrong. But you cannot practice in theory. You must practice in the arena. Think of the pilot. A pilot cannot steer a plane that is sitting on the runway. He can turn the wheel, push the pedals, and flip the switches, but the plane will not change direction. It must be moving forward to be steered. The same is true for your life. You cannot steer your destiny while you are standing still. You might be heading in the wrong direction right now. That is okay. If you are moving, you can turn. You can correct. You can pivot. But if you are stationary, you are stuck. God cannot guide a parked car. You must generate forward motion. And then, and only then, can you be guided toward your definite major purpose. Consider the concept of the flash of decision. Napoleon Hill studied hundreds of successful men and found that every single one of them had the habit of reaching decisions promptly and changing them slowly, if at all. The drifter reaches decisions very slowly, if ever, and changes them quickly and frequently. Why? Because the drifter is acting out of fear. He is afraid of making the wrong choice, so he makes no choice. The master understands that any decision is better than no decision. When you make a decision and act on it, you cut off the conflicting voices in your head. You focus your energy. Even if the decision is wrong, the act of deciding builds your power. It strengthens your will. You can always make another decision to correct the course, but you cannot correct a course you haven't chosen. This brings us to the law of displacement. You cannot hold two opposing thoughts in your mind at the same time. You cannot be terrified and busy at the same time. Action displaces fear. When you are fully engaged in the work, when you are in the flow of execution, there is no room for doubt. Doubt creeps in during the pauses. It creeps in when you are idle. If you are paralyzed by fear right now, it is because you are not busy enough. You are spending too much time thinking about your life and not enough time living it. The cure for anxiety is work. Not busy work, but deep, purposeful work toward your goal. To allow yourself into the alchemy of action, the heat of your effort burns away the fog of fear. Let us look at the modern application of this alchemy. You may not be building a steel mill or inventing the telephone, but you are building a life. You have a vision. Maybe it is to start a business, to write a book, to get in the best shape of your life, to find a partner. The lead you are holding is your current circumstance. It might be debt, it might be loneliness, it might be obscurity. The gold is your vision. The fire is action. You must stop looking at the lead and complaining about how heavy it is. You must throw it into the fire. If you are broke, that is lead. Do not hide from it. Do not deny it. Use it. Let the pain of poverty drive you to work harder than anyone else. Let the humiliation of lack be the fuel that keeps you up late, learning a new skill. Transmute the energy of I don't have enough into I will create abundance. If you are lonely, that is lead. Use it. Let the silence of your life drive you to connect with your own soul, to build your character, to become a person of such value that others are drawn to you. Transmute the energy of isolation into the gold of self-mastery. This is what it means to be an alchemist. You do not wish for better circumstances. You use your current circumstances as the raw material for your creation. We must also discuss the compound effect of action. One small action seems insignificant. You write one page, you make one sales call, you do one workout, the world does not change. The drifter looks at this and says, "It's not working," and he quits. The alchemist understands the law of compounding. He knows that actions accumulate. One brick is nothing. 10,000 bricks is a cathedral. The water cuts the rock, not by strength, but by persistence. You must have the faith to keep pouring water on the rock, even when you cannot see a crack. You must have the faith to keep laying bricks, even when you cannot see the cathedral. The alchemy happens in the invisible before it happens in the visible. Every action you take is storing up potential energy. Eventually, you hit a tipping point. The rock splits. The cathedral rises. The overnight success happens after 10 years of labor. But you must start. You must cross the terror barrier. This is the psychological wall that rises up whenever you try to move from your comfort zone to your growth zone. Your paradigm, your old programming, will fight you. It will make you feel sick, anxious, and tired. It will give you 1,000 logical reasons to stop. This is the moment of truth. This is where the 98% turn back. They hit the terror barrier and retreat to safety. The 2% crash through it. They understand that the terror is not a stop sign, it is a landmark. It tells them they are going the right way. If your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. If you don't feel resistance, you aren't climbing. Embrace the terror. Run toward the roar. On the other side of that barrier is the freedom you seek. Let us return to the image of the fire. Alchemy requires heat. You cannot transform your life with lukewarm effort. You cannot transform your life with half-hearted attempts. You must be intense. You must be obsessed. Napoleon Hill spoke of a burning desire. Notice the word burning. Not a wishing desire, not a hoping desire, but a burning desire. A desire that keeps you awake. A desire that gets you up early. A desire that consumes your excuses. You must throw your whole self into the fire. You cannot hold back. You cannot hedge your bets. You must be willing to be consumed by your purpose so that you can be reborn as the person who achieved it. Ask yourself right now, what am I waiting for? Who am I waiting for? No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to give you permission. The cavalry is not coming. You are the cavalry. You are the hero of this movie. If you don't act, the movie is boring. If you don't act, the plot doesn't move. You owe it to yourself, to your creator, and to the world to play your role with boldness. You are not a rehearsal. This is the show. The skeptics will say, "But what if I fail?" The alchemist answers, "Then I will learn." The skeptics say, "But what if I look stupid?" The alchemist answers, "I don't care about the opinions of spectators." The skeptics say, "But it's too hard." The alchemist answers, "I didn't ask for easy. I asked for worth it." You must insulate your mind from the skeptics. They are the water that tries to put out your fire. Stay away from them. Surround yourself with other fires. Surround yourself with people who are also burning, also moving, also building. Their heat will feed yours. In closing this chapter, I want you to visualize your life as a laboratory. You are the scientist. Your days are your experiments. When an experiment fails, you don't burn down the lab. You adjust the variables. You try again. You keep trying until you find the formula. The formula for success is not a secret. It is a system. And the system is decide, act, analyze, adjust, act again, repeat until victory. There is no magic in the world except the magic you create with your own will. The philosopher's stone is in your pocket. It is your ability to choose action over fear. It is your ability to choose movement over stagnation. It is your ability to say yes to your destiny when everything else says no. So, take the lead of your life. Take the heavy, dark, painful parts of your existence. Hold them in your hands. Feel their weight. And then, with a smile of absolute defiance, throw them into the furnace of action. Watch them melt. Watch them change. Watch them turn into the gold of character, the gold of achievement, the gold of a life well lived. You are the alchemist. The fire is lit. The world is waiting. What will you create? Now, before we move to the destruction of doubt, I have an invitation for those of you who are ready to stop watching the fire and start burning. My friends, pause with me for a moment. You are learning the alchemy of action, the art of turning the lead of your life into gold. But remember Napoleon Hill's principle. No mind is complete by itself. Even Carnegie needed a mastermind. You need a community that speaks this language of power, or the world will drag you back to mediocrity. If you are committed to acting as if you cannot fail, I invite you to make a small but significant decision right now. Click the subscribe button below. By doing so, you are not just following a channel, you are joining a digital alliance of the top 2%. Do not walk this path alone. Join us. Let us build this legacy together. Now, let us turn our attention to the silent assassin that tries to kill your action. Doubt. We have engaged the gears of action. We have stoked the fire of the alchemist. But now, as you begin to move toward your definite major purpose, you will encounter the silent assassin. It is a force more deadly than any external enemy, more paralyzing than any physical chain, and more destructive than poverty itself. I am speaking of doubt. There is no force more crippling to the human spirit than doubt. It whispers lies in the midnight hour. It feeds hesitation when you are on the brink of a breakthrough. It stalls progress just as the momentum begins to build. Doubt is the silent thief of dreams, the invisible wall that separates the 98% from the 2%. But there is a truth that must be understood, accepted, and integrated by all who seek greatness. Doubt paralyzes, but faith liberates. We must define our terms with the precision of a surgeon. What is doubt? It is not merely uncertainty. Uncertainty is a lack of data. Doubt is a malignancy of the imagination. It is the creative power of your mind working in reverse. You see, to the same mental faculty that allows you to visualize a massive empire or a beautiful work of art. The faculty of imagination is the same faculty that constructs your nightmares. Doubt is faith in the unwanted. When you doubt, you are actually placing your faith in failure. You are believing in a disaster that has not yet happened. You are using the divine gift of visualization to paint a picture of your own destruction. The master understands that he cannot kill the imagination, nor should he want to. Instead, he must retrain it. He must take the energy that is flowing into the image of failure and redirect it with violent force into the image of success. This process is what I call the destruction of doubt. To destroy doubt, you do not argue with it. You do not negotiate with it. You displace it. The mind can only hold one dominant vibration at a time. It cannot vibrate with the frequency of fear and the frequency of faith simultaneously. Light and darkness cannot occupy the same space. If you want to banish the darkness of doubt, you do not try to shovel it out with a bucket. You simply turn on the light of faith. And faith, in the philosophy of success, is not a passive wish. It is not a religious hope that things will work out. It is a state of mind that can be induced through autosuggestion and bold action. It is the elixir which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to infinite intelligence. Let us look at this principle in the crucible of history. We turn our gaze to a woman who stood against the entire weight of civilization, Susan B. Anthony. In the 19th century, the world was not just indifferent to the rights of women, it was hostile. The laws were against her. The church was against her. The customs of society were against her. Logic, as it was understood at the time, was against her. If she had allowed doubt to enter her mind, she would have had every rational reason to quit. The information of her time told her that women were inferior, that they belonged in the home, that they lacked the intellect for politics. This was the reality presented to her senses. But Susan B. Anthony did not live by the evidence of her senses. She lived by the evidence of her vision. Consider the audacity of her actions. In 1872, she walked into a polling place and voted. This was a crime. She was arrested. She was put on trial. Now imagine the pressure of that moment. A lone woman standing before a male judge, a male jury, and a male-dominated legal system. The ghost of fear would have screamed, "Apologize! Beg for mercy! Admit you were wrong so you can go home!" Doubt would have whispered, "You are just one person. You cannot fight the United States government. You are making a fool of yourself." But Anthony possessed a faith that was impervious to external facts. When the judge sentenced her to pay a fine, she stood tall and declared, "I shall never pay $1 of your unjust penalty." And she never did. What allowed her to do this? It was the destruction of doubt through the elevation of principle. She realized that the laws of men were in conflict with the laws of nature and justice. When you align yourself with a higher truth, doubt vanishes. Doubt thrives in the swamp of the ego. What will happen to me? What will people think of me? But when you rise to the level of mission, the me disappears, and with it, the doubt. Anthony was not fighting for Susan. She was fighting for half of the human race. Her faith was not in herself alone, it was in the righteousness of her cause. This is a key secret for you. If you are plagued by doubt, your cause is likely too small. It is likely too centered on your own gain, your own safety, your own image. Expand your purpose. Make it about something greater than yourself, your family, your community, your legacy, and you will find that the doubt is swallowed up by the magnitude of the mission. Let us shift from the courtroom to the battlefield to study another form of faith. Strategic faith. We look to Ulysses S. Grant. Before the Civil War, Grant was, by society's standards, a failure. He had failed in business, he had struggled with alcohol, and he was working as a clerk in his father's leather store. He was a drifter. But when the war came, something inside him awakened. He found his definite major purpose. Grant was not a flashy general. He was not a scholar of military theory like his opponents. But he possessed a quality that Abraham Lincoln valued above all else: the refusal to be intimidated by the reputation of the enemy. During the Battle of the Wilderness, the Union Army was taking heavy losses. The woods were on fire. Chaos reigned. Panic was spreading through the ranks. Grant's officers came to him terrified. They said, "General, Lee is going to do this. Lee is going to cut our supply lines. Lee is going to flank us." They were obsessed with what the enemy might do. They were consumed by doubt. Grant listened, sat quietly, removed his cigar, and said, "I am heartily tired of hearing about what Lee is going to do. Some of you seem to think he is suddenly going to do a double somersault and land in our rear and on both of our flanks at the same time. Go back to your command and try to think what we are going to do ourselves instead of what Lee is going to do. Analyze that moment. That is the destruction of doubt. Doubt creates a monster out of the enemy. It magnifies the obstacle. It obsesses over the what-ifs of disaster. Grant refused to play that game. He forced his mind, and the minds of his men, to focus on their agency, their power, their next move. He shifted the focus from the external threat to the internal capacity. This is what you must do. When you are launching a business, doubt says, "What if the competition crushes you? What if the economy crashes?" You must be like Grant. You must say, "I am tired of hearing what the economy might do. I am focused on what I am going to do." You must dominate the mental space with your own plans. You must act on the offensive. Doubt is a defensive posture. Faith is an offensive posture. You cannot win a war or a life on the defensive. There is a metaphysical law at play here called the law of substitution. You cannot simply remove a thought from your mind. You must replace it. If I tell you, "Do not think of a pink elephant," you immediately think of a pink elephant. If you tell yourself, "Do not doubt," you will focus on the doubt. The only way to remove the pink elephant is to think of a white tiger. The only way to remove doubt is to flood the mind with faith. How do you do this? You do it through the repetition of positive directives. You do it by acting as if the outcome is already secured. When Grant gave orders, he did not say, "Try to take that hill." He said, "Take that hill." The language of faith admits no possibility of failure. Let us go deeper into the hypnotic rhythm of doubt. Doubt is seductive. It pretends to be wisdom. It dresses itself up as being realistic or playing devil's advocate. It feels safer to doubt, because if you doubt and you fail, you can say, "I knew it wouldn't work." It protects the ego from the shock of disappointment. But this is a false protection. It is a slow poison. When you indulge in doubt, you are telling your subconscious mind that you are unworthy of the goal. The subconscious, being a faithful servant, says, "Okay, if we are unworthy, I will sabotage our efforts to ensure we do not get it." You begin to miss appointments, you forget names, you lose your drive, you create the very failure you feared. This is the self-fulfilling prophecy. To break this rhythm, you must become a paranoid inverse. Instead of believing the world is conspiring to hurt you, you must believe the world is conspiring to help you. When a setback happens, doubt says, "See, I told you it wouldn't work." Faith says, "This is a plot twist in my success story. This is necessary for my development." Susan B. Anthony lost her court case, but she won the war of public opinion. She used the defeat to speak to the nation. If she had doubted, she would have seen the trial as the end. Because she believed, she saw it as a microphone. You must learn to interpret every event through the lens of faith. This is not delusion. It is the choice of the narrator. You are the narrator of your life. Why would you write a tragedy when you can write a triumph? We must also address the biological aspect of faith versus fear. Fear puts the body in a state of contraction. The blood leaves the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, and goes to the muscles for flight. You literally become stupider when you doubt. You cannot think creatively. You cannot solve complex problems. Faith, on the other hand, puts the body in a state of expansion. It releases dopamine and serotonin. It relaxes the nervous system. It opens the access to the higher faculties of the mind. When you act with faith, you are biologically optimized for success. You are smarter, faster, and more charismatic. This is why the person who believes often defeats the person who merely knows. The believer is operating at full capacity. The doubter is operating with the brakes on. So, how do we practically destroy doubt in the modern world? We use the mental diet. Just as you would not eat rotten food because it would poison your body, you must refuse to consume rotten thoughts. When a doubt enters your mind, you must catch it immediately. You must treat it like a spark landing on dry grass. If you stomp it out immediately, it does no damage. If you let it sit, it burns down the whole forest. Most people let the spark sit. They invite the spark in. They offer it a drink. They ruminate on it. What if I'm not good enough? And they spend 3 hours exploring that question. Stop it. You must have a zero-tolerance policy for self-deprecating thoughts. When the thought comes, say stop, out loud if you have to. Then, immediately pivot to the affirmation of your strength. I am not ready becomes I am preparing. I am scared becomes I am excited. I might fail becomes I will learn. You must also curate your environment. Doubt is contagious. If you hang around people who are cynical, who are defeated, who mock ambition, you will catch their disease. You cannot be a master surrounded by drifters. You must protect your faith like a candle in the wind. Surround yourself with the fire-starters, people whose flames are burning bright. Read the biographies of the greats. When you read about Grant or Anthony or Edison, you are borrowing their vibration. You are reminding your subconscious that the impossible has been done before and therefore can be done again. Consider the concept of the point of no return. Doubt thrives when there is an exit strategy. As long as you can go back, you will doubt your decision to go forward. Grant was famous for cutting his own supply lines. When he crossed the Mississippi River to attack Vicksburg, he cut himself off from his base. He had to feed his army from the enemy's land. He had to win, or he would starve. There was no going back. This eliminated doubt, because doubt was no longer useful. The only useful thing was a strategy for victory. You must cut your supply lines to your old life. Burn the bridge to your old identity. When you leave yourself no choice but to succeed, you will find that doubt packs its bags and leaves. It has no home in a mind that is fully committed. Faith is also a muscle. You build it through threshold training. You start with small acts of faith. You trust yourself to handle a small problem. You see the result. Your faith grows. Then you tackle a bigger challenge. You stretch the muscle. Susan B. Anthony didn't start by voting illegally. She started by speaking in small halls. She built her courage rep by rep. Grant didn't start as the commander of the Union armies. He started as a volunteer. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you are killing doubt. Every time you face a fear and survive, you are feeding faith. Let us return to the idea of the inner courtroom. Inside your mind, there is a trial taking place every day. The prosecutor is doubt. He presents the evidence of your past failures. He points out your flaws. He shouts, "Guilty of incompetence." The defender is faith. But for most people, the defender is asleep. The prosecutor runs the show. You must wake up the defender. You must become your own best attorney. When doubt says, "You failed in 1999, faith must object, irrelevant. That was a different person, a different time." Look at the evidence of 2024. You must argue your case for greatness. You must present the evidence of your potential. And you must look the judge, your conscious mind, in the eye, and demand a verdict of capable. Ultimately, the destruction of doubt is an act of spiritual violence. The kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. You cannot be passive about your peace. You must be a warrior for your own sanity. When you wake up in the morning, doubt is waiting at the foot of your bed. It wants to plan your day. Kick it out. Start your day with a decree. Today I walk in faith. Today I believe in my mission. Today I am the captain. There is a beautiful paradox in this. The more you act, the less you doubt. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you are terrified, go do something. Clean your desk. Make a call. Run a mile. Write a page. The simple act of moving tells your brain that you are in control. Doubt is a parasite of stagnation. It cannot attach itself to a moving target. Be a moving target. Let the lives of Susan B. Anthony and Ulysses S. Grant remind you that the world is pliable to the person who refuses to doubt. Anthony changed the Constitution. Grant saved the Union. They were flesh and blood, just like you. They felt fear, just like you. But they decided that their vision was more real than their fear. They decided that the truth in their hearts was more valid than the facts in the world. And because they believed, the world eventually rearranged itself to match their belief. This is the promise of the law of decree. When you decree that doubt is no longer welcome in your house, you make room for the guest of honor. Destiny. Your destiny is waiting at the door, but it will not enter until doubt leaves. Open the door. Throw doubt out into the cold, and invite your future in. As we move to the next chapter, we will learn how this practice of faith solidifies into something tangible: confidence. We will look at how to build the muscle of confidence so that it becomes your natural state, using the example of a man who rebuilt his own body and spirit to become a giant of history. We have destroyed doubt. We have ignited the fire of alchemy. But now we must construct the vessel that will carry this fire. We must talk about the nature of confidence. There is a great lie that has been sold to the masses, a lie that keeps the 98% in a state of permanent envy and paralysis. This lie states that confidence is a gift from the gods, that some men are born with a spine of steel and a voice of thunder, while others are destined to be meek and trembling. This is false. Confidence is not a trait. It is a muscle. It is not an inheritance. It is an acquisition. Just as a man is not born with massive biceps, he is not born with massive self-assurance. Both are the result of resistance training. Both are the result of tearing down the weak tissue and rebuilding it stronger. This is the Roosevelt principle. To understand this principle, we must look at the life of one of the most singular forces of nature in human history, Theodore Roosevelt. When we think of Teddy today, we think of the Rough Rider, the hunter, the man who gave a speech for 90 minutes with a bullet in his chest, the man who said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." We see him as the ultimate alpha, a paragon of masculine vitality and unshakable will. But this is not who he was born as. If you were to look at Theodore Roosevelt as a child, you would see a tragic figure. He was a sickly boy, plagued by severe asthma that left him gasping for air at night, terrified that he would not wake up. He was frail, skinny, timid, and nervous. He was bullied by other children. He was the very definition of a victim. By the logic of the drifter, his destiny was to be a shut-in, a man who lived a quiet, fearful life in the shadows of the library. But Roosevelt's father took him aside one day and said something that changed the course of history. He said, "Theodore, you have the mind, but you have not the body. You must make your body." Listen to that phrase. Make your body. It implies that you are not stuck with the raw materials you were given. You are the sculptor. Young Roosevelt took this decree into his soul. He decided that he would not accept the identity of the sickly boy. He would construct a new identity, brick by brick, rep by rep. He joined a gymnasium, he started lifting weights, he started boxing, he learned to ride horses, he threw himself into what he later called the strenuous life. He did not wait until he felt strong to act strong. He acted strong until the feeling followed. He famously wrote, "I acted as if I were not afraid, and presently the fear disappeared." This is the core of the Roosevelt principle. The act creates the attribute. Most people wait for the feeling of confidence before they take the action. They say, "I will speak up in the meeting when I feel confident. I will ask for the sale when I feel confident." The Roosevelt principle flips this on its head. You speak up to get confident. You ask for the sale to get confident. The feeling is the reward for the action, not the prerequisite. When Roosevelt entered the boxing ring, he was terrified. He got hit. He got knocked down. But with every punch he took, the fragility of his childhood identity cracked, and a new, harder layer was formed underneath. He realized that he was not made of glass. He realized that pain was not fatal. This realization is the birth of confidence. Confidence is simply the knowledge that you can handle the worst-case scenario. Let us analyze the physics of the confidence muscle. How does a muscle grow? You must subject it to a load that is slightly heavier than what it is used to. This causes micro tears in the muscle fibers. The body then repairs these tears, making the fiber thicker and stronger to handle the load next time. Confidence works the exact same way. You must subject your ego to a load that is slightly heavier than it is used to. You must place yourself in situations where you feel awkward, where you feel imposter syndrome, where you feel the risk of embarrassment. These are the micro tears of the psyche. The drifter avoids these situations at all costs. He seeks comfort. He protects his fragile ego from any strain. As a result, his confidence muscle atrophies. It becomes weak and flabby. The master seeks out the strain. He volunteers for the difficult project. He initiates the difficult conversation. He steps onto the stage. He feels the tear, he feels the burn, and he knows that this is the feeling of growth. Roosevelt took this to the extreme. When his wife and mother died on the same day, a tragedy that would have destroyed a lesser man, he did not retreat into a dark room to wither away. He went to the Badlands of the Dakotas. He became a rancher. He lived in the saddle. He hunted grizzly bears. He fought with outlaws. Why? Because he knew that black care, his name for depression, rarely sits behind a rider whose pace is fast enough. He outran his demons by building a lifestyle of intense physical and mental challenge. He built a new container for his soul, one that was too strong to be crushed by grief. This teaches us that confidence is also a shield against the tragedies of life. When you know you are strong, you know you can survive loss. When you know you can survive the winter, you do not fear the cold. We must also discuss the connection between physiology and psychology. The Roosevelt principle is not just mental, it is physical. Roosevelt understood that you cannot feel like a king if you are carrying yourself like a peasant. He changed his posture. He puffed out his chest. He flashed a blinding smile with all his teeth. He spoke with a staccato rhythm that commanded attention. He used his body to hack his mind. Science now confirms this. When you stand in a power pose, your testosterone rises and your cortisol drops. When you smile, your brain releases dopamine. You can literally change your chemical state by changing your physical state. The drifter slumps. He looks down, he mumbles. He is broadcasting a signal of, "Do not hurt me," which ironically invites the world to hurt him. The master broadcasts a signal of, "I am here." You must begin your construction project with your body. Walk faster. Look people in the eye. Shake hands with a grip that says you exist. Occupy space. These small physical acts send a signal back to the brain saying, "We are safe, we are powerful, we are in control." Let us go deeper into the concept of the arena. Roosevelt gave one of the most famous speeches in history about the man in the arena. He said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood." This is the ultimate distinction between the 98% and the 2%. The 98% are the critics in the stands. They are safe, clean, and cynical. They judge the players. They have opinions on everything, but experience in nothing. Their confidence is fake because it has never been tested. The 2% are in the arena. They are getting hit. They are failing. They are sweating. But their confidence is real because it is forged in the fire of experience. You cannot build the muscle of confidence by watching YouTube videos about weightlifting. You have to lift the weight. You cannot build confidence by reading about business. You have to start one and face the possibility of bankruptcy. You must leave the stands. You must stop being a spectator of your own life. This brings us to the law of accumulated proof. The subconscious mind is like a skeptical lawyer. You can stand in front of the mirror and say, "I am confident," all day long, but the lawyer will ask, "Where is the evidence?" If you have a history of quitting, of hiding, of breaking promises to yourself, the lawyer will say, "Objection, false. You lose the case." To win the case, you must present evidence. You must stack up a pile of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. Every time you wake up when the alarm goes off, that is proof. Every time you do the extra rep, that is proof. Every time you speak your truth, even when your voice shakes, that is proof. Roosevelt stacked up so much proof from the gym to the ranch to the battlefield to the White House that his inner lawyer had no choice but to accept the verdict. This man is unstoppable. You must start building your case today. Start with small wins. Do not try to be president tomorrow. Just keep one small promise today, then another, then another. The accumulation of these small acts creates a mountain of evidence that even your inner critic cannot deny. Consider the role of alter ego. Roosevelt effectively created an alter ego. He created Teddy out of the raw material of Teddy, his childhood nickname. He visualized the man he wanted to be, fearless, robust, decisive, and he stepped into that suit until it fit him. Many great performers do this. Bianca has Sasha Fierce. Athletes have game day personas. This is not being fake. It is a tool of the Roosevelt principle. It allows you to detach from your insecurities and step into a role of power. When you walk into a high-pressure situation, ask yourself, how would the highest version of myself handle this? Then, act out that behavior. Eventually, the mask eats into the face. You become the thing you pretend to be. If you pretend to be brave long enough, you forget how to be a coward. We must also address the resistance of the environment. When Roosevelt started his transformation, people mocked him. He was a rich kid playing cowboy. He was a Jane dandy. The political bosses called him a punk. This is a crucial part of the process. When you start building your confidence muscle, the people around you, the drifters, will try to pull you back. They will try to keep you in the box they have built for you. They liked you better when you were weak because your weakness made them feel comfortable. Your strength reflects their inadequacy. You must be prepared for this resistance. You must treat it like the resistance of the weights in the gym. It is necessary for your growth. If everyone agrees with you, if everyone is comfortable with you, you are probably not growing. Friction is proof of motion. Roosevelt did not let the mockery stop him. He used it as fuel. He enjoyed the fight. He developed a joy of battle. You must learn to enjoy the resistance, to smile when the wind blows hard against you, knowing that it is making your roots deeper. Let us discuss the voice of authority. One of the most tangible ways to build the confidence muscle is through your voice. Roosevelt had a high, squeaky voice as a young man. He worked on it. He learned to project. He learned to use rhetoric that inspired. Your voice is the instrument of your soul. If you speak with a rising inflection at the end of sentences, upspeak, you sound like you are asking for permission. If you speak too fast, you sound anxious. The master learns to slow down. He learns to use silence. He learns to speak with a downward inflection, making statements of fact rather than questions of doubt. Practice this. Record your voice. Listen to it. Does it sound like a leader? If not, change it. This is part of making your body. It is part of the physical construction of the persona. There is also the aspect of physical courage. In our modern, comfortable world, we rarely face physical danger. This has made us soft. Roosevelt believed that every man should experience physical hardship to sharpen the mind. You may not need to hunt grizzly bears, but you should do things that scare you physically. Take a cold shower. Run a marathon. Learn a martial art. There is something primal that happens when you realize your body can endure pain and exhaustion. It translates into mental toughness. When you are in a boardroom negotiation and things get tense, you can tell yourself, I have run 50 miles. This conversation is nothing. I have been punched in the face. This email is nothing. Physical toughness anchors mental confidence. It gives you a reserve of grit to draw upon when the world gets heavy. Now, let us apply the Roosevelt principle to the specific fear of imposter syndrome. Many of you feel like frauds. You feel like you don't belong in the room. Roosevelt felt this too when he first arrived in the Badlands, wearing his fancy glasses and custom-made buckskin suit. The real cowboys laughed at him, but he didn't leave. He didn't try to hide his background. He simply outworked them. He rode longer, hunted harder, and complained less. Eventually, he earned their respect not by being like them, but by being undeniable. The cure for imposter syndrome is not affirmations, it is competence, it is work. It is staying in the saddle until your legs bleed. When you know you have put in the work, you stop feeling like an imposter. You know you paid the price of admission. Confidence is the receipt you get when you pay the price of effort. We must also look at the recovery rate. Confidence is not about never failing. Roosevelt failed many times. He lost elections, he lost money. He lost battles, but his recovery rate was instant. The weak man fails and spends a month mourning. The strong man fails and spends an hour analyzing, then gets back to work. The muscle of confidence allows you to bounce back. It gives you elasticity. When you are hit, you don't shatter. You absorb the blow and convert the energy into forward motion. You must train your recovery rate. When you make a mistake, give yourself a timer. I will feel bad about this for 10 minutes. Then, the timer goes off and you move on. Do not let one defeat define your identity. You are the builder, not the building. If a brick falls, you don't tear down the wall. You pick up another brick. Let us return to the image of the strenuous life. Roosevelt preached this doctrine to a nation that he feared was becoming soft. He believed that a life of ease was a life of ignoble ambition. The true joy of living is found in the struggle, in the effort, in the triumph of high achievement. Ask yourself, are you seeking the easy life, or are you seeking the strenuous life? The easy life leads to atrophy. The strenuous life leads to power. Confidence is the byproduct of overcoming. You cannot have the byproduct without the process. You must fall in love with the struggle. You must look at a difficult problem and say, good, this is a weight heavy enough to make me strong. The Roosevelt principle is ultimately about self-sovereignty. It is the declaration that you are the supreme ruler of your own internal state. You decide how you feel, not the weather, not the economy, not your critics. When Roosevelt was shot in the chest before a speech in Milwaukee in 1912, he didn't panic. He coughed into his hand, saw blood, and realized the bullet hadn't pierced his lung. He reasoned that since he wasn't coughing up blood, he was okay to speak. He stood on stage for 90 minutes with a bullet in his body and delivered his message. That is self-sovereignty. That is a mind that has so totally conquered the body that even a bullet cannot interrupt the definite major purpose. While you may never face a bullet, you will face insults, rejections, and setbacks. Will you let them stop your speech? Or will you check for blood, realize you are still standing, and finish your mission? So, here is your training program for the muscle of confidence. I want you to identify one area of your life where you feel weak, timid, or asthmatic. Maybe it is your finances, your social skills, or your physical health. Now, I want you to design a strenuous life protocol for that area. If you are shy, your protocol is to speak to one stranger every day. No excuses. If you are weak physically, your protocol is to exercise every day until you fail. If you are fearful of business, your protocol is to make one offer every day. Do not wait to feel like doing it. Do it because you are the sculptor, and this is the chisel. Understand that the first few reps will be painful. You will tremble. You will want to quit. The ghost of your old identity will scream, "This isn't us. Let's go back to bed." Ignore the ghost. Lift the weight. Do it again tomorrow. And the next day, soon a miracle will happen. The weight will feel lighter. The fear will recede. You will walk into a room and realize that you are no longer looking for the exit, you are looking for the throne. You will realize that you have made your body, and in doing so you have made your soul. Theodore Roosevelt died in his sleep. The vice president said death had to take him sleeping, for if he had been awake there would have been a fight. Imagine living a life so full of confidence and power that even death is afraid to approach you while you are awake. That is the standard. That is the goal. Do not settle for a small, timid existence. Do not be the cold and timid soul who knows neither victory nor defeat. Enter the arena. Get dirty. Get bloody. Build the muscle. And act as if you cannot fail, until the acting becomes your reality. As we close this chapter on confidence, remember that this muscle requires fuel, and the fuel for confidence is consistent, enduring success. In the next chapter, we will examine how to sustain this power over a lifetime. We will look at the lives of Vanderbilt and Franklin to understand the principles of enduring success and the power of optimism. We will learn how to play the long game, how to turn a moment of confidence into a legacy of greatness. We have ignited the fire. We have destroyed doubt. We have built the muscle of confidence. But now we face the ultimate test of the master. It is one thing to win a battle. It is another thing entirely to win the war. It is one thing to have a burst of energy that lasts for a week. It is another to sustain a burning desire for 50 years. We must now turn our attention to the science of enduring success. There is a kind of success that flickers like a cheap candle, bright for a moment, consuming itself in a flash of glory, and then vanishing into the smoke of obscurity. This is the success of the lottery winner, the one-hit wonder, the gambler who gets lucky. But true success, the kind that alters history, the kind that builds legacies for generations, is never built on fleeting emotions or momentary luck. It is built on a foundation of fearless commitment and, most importantly, the strategic application of optimism. To understand the architecture of a legacy, we must study the lives of two men who represent the pillars of American power and wisdom: Cornelius Vanderbilt and Benjamin Franklin. On the surface, they seem different. Vanderbilt was a titan of industry, a man of iron and steam, a conqueror of markets. Franklin was a philosopher, a scientist, a diplomat, a man of wit and invention. But beneath the surface, they shared the exact same psychological operating system. They both understood that to act as if you cannot fail requires a view of the future that is unshakably positive. They understood that optimism is not a soft emotion, it is a hard, strategic weapon. It is the fuel that allows the engine of action to run without ceasing. Let us begin with the Commodore, Cornelius Vanderbilt. His story is the ultimate rebuttal to the excuse of lack of resources. Vanderbilt began his empire not with a fleet of ships, not with a trust fund, but with a single, small wooden ferry boat. He was 16 years old. He borrowed money from his mother, $100, to buy a boat, to ferry passengers across the harbor. To the drifter, this was a dead-end job. To the drifter, this was hard, manual labor with no future. But Vanderbilt did not see a boat. He saw a transportation network. He did not see a day job. He saw an empire. He acted as if he were already the king of the harbor. He worked harder than anyone else, undercutting competitors, improving speed, and mastering the tides. He was ruthless in his efficiency because he respected his vision too much to be lazy. But the true genius of Vanderbilt and the lesson for you lies in his ability to pivot based on his optimistic vision of the future. After decades of dominating the shipping industry, after becoming the wealthiest man in America through steamships, Vanderbilt did something that looked like madness to the average mind. He sold his ships. He liquidated his fleet. Why? Because he looked at the horizon and saw the smoke of the steam engine. He saw that the future was not on the water but on the rails. He acted as if the age of the ship was over and the age of the train had begun, long before it was obvious to the masses. He took his massive fortune and bet it on the railroads. The critics called him a fool. They said he was too old to start over. They said trains were dangerous and unreliable. But Vanderbilt possessed the eye of the optimist. The pessimist sees the danger in the new. The optimist sees the opportunity. Vanderbilt looked at a disjointed, messy system of local railroads and saw a unified national network. He bought the lines. He connected them. He built the Grand Central Depot. He created the infrastructure that would power the American economy for a century. He did this because he believed with absolute certainty that the future would be bigger than the past. This is the key to enduring success. You must believe that your best days are ahead of you, not behind you. The moment you believe your peak is in the past, you begin to die. Vanderbilt was in his 70s when he built his railroad empire. He acted as if he had another lifetime to live. You must adopt this long-game optimism. It does not matter how old you are, how broke you are, or how many times you have failed. If you can look at the future and see a cathedral where others see a pile of rocks, you can build a legacy. Now, let us turn to the sage, Benjamin Franklin. If Vanderbilt represents the brute force of commercial optimism, Franklin represents the resilience of intellectual optimism. Franklin was a man who faced failure repeatedly. He had little formal education. He started as a printer's apprentice. He faced political enemies, scientific skepticism, and the daunting task of helping to forge a new nation. But Franklin possessed a mental alchemy that turned every setback into a setup for a comeback. He viewed his life as an experiment. When an experiment failed, he did not get angry at the chemicals. He simply adjusted the formula. This is the essence of scientific optimism. It removes the ego from the failure. Consider his experiment with the kite and the key. He set out to prove that lightning was electricity. This was dangerous. It was considered foolish by the elite scientists of Europe. But Franklin acted as if the discovery was inevitable. He stood in the rain, risking his life, because his curiosity was stronger than his fear. When he succeeded, he did not hoard the knowledge. He gave it to the world. He invented the lightning rod and refused to patent it. Why? Because an optimist operates from a mindset of abundance. The pessimist hoards because he fears there is not enough. The optimist gives because he knows he can always create more. Franklin's enduring success came from his belief that he could solve any problem if he applied enough thought and industry to it. Franklin also applied this optimism to his own character. He famously created a list of 13 virtues: temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and humility. He tried to master them all, and he failed. He found that he could not be perfect. But did he quit? Did he say, "I am a sinner, I am hopeless"? No. He laughed at himself and kept trying. He famously said that while he never arrived at the perfection he wished for, he was a better and a happier man than I otherwise should have been if I had not attempted it. This is moral optimism. It is the belief that you can improve. The drifter accepts his flaws as permanent. "That's just the way I am," he says. The master acts as if he is a piece of marble, and he is the sculptor. He chips away at his own vices day by day, believing that a masterpiece is hiding inside. Let us synthesize these two lives into a philosophy of enduring power. Enduring success requires a solid core built from three principles: fearless commitment, consistent action, and persistent courage. Fearless commitment means you are all in. You are not dating your destiny, you are married to it. Vanderbilt was married to his vision of efficiency. Franklin was married to his vision of utility. They did not have one foot out the door. When you act as if you cannot fail, you burn the boats. You create a psychological environment where success is the only logical outcome. Consistent action means doing the work when the excitement fades. Everyone is excited on day 1, but what about day 1,000? The drifter quits when the novelty wears off. The master keeps going because his optimism tells him that the compound effect is working, even when he cannot see it. Persistent courage means you do not crumble when the market crashes, when the critics scream, or when the experiment explodes. You take the hit, you reset the dial, and you keep moving. We must deeply analyze the psychology of optimism. Optimism is often misunderstood as toxic positivity, the refusal to see reality. This is false. True optimism is tragic optimism. It admits that life is hard, that suffering is real, and that people can be cruel. But it chooses to believe that the human spirit is stronger than these realities. Optimism is a strategy for energy management. Pessimism is expensive. It costs you energy to worry. It costs you sleep. It drains your adrenal glands. Optimism generates energy. When you believe that you will succeed, you wake up with fire. You work harder. You attract other optimists. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think the world is a trap, you will act like a prey animal, and you will be eaten. If you think the world is a playground, you will act like a player, and you will have fun. You get what you expect. Let us look at the reticular activating system, RAS. Again, in this context, your brain is a search engine. If you type in, "Why is my life so hard?" your brain will search its database and give you a million results. Because you are broke, because you are tired, because the government is bad. You will feel depressed. But if you type in, "How can I use this situation to win?" your brain will give you a different set of results. You can learn a new skill, you can pivot your business, you can build resilience. Vanderbilt typed in, "How do I dominate transportation?" Franklin typed in, "How can I be useful to mankind?" The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. The optimist asks better questions. To act as if you cannot fail, you must stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "How will I handle the success?" Enduring success also requires the ability to handle the dip. In every journey, there is a beginning, which is exciting. Then there is the middle, which is long, hard, and boring. This is the dip. This is where 98% of people quit. They quit because their optimism runs out. They expected it to be easy. When it gets hard, they interpret the difficulty as a sign that they should stop. The master interprets the difficulty as a sign that he is separating himself from the herd. Vanderbilt loved the difficult times because he knew his competitors would quit. He bought their businesses for pennies on the dollar when they panicked. He used the recession as a weapon. Franklin used his political struggles to sharpen his diplomacy. When you are in the dip, you must act as if the breakthrough is right around the corner. You must use your optimism to build a bridge over the valley of despair. We must also speak of constructive discontent. Vanderbilt was never satisfied. He was always looking for a way to make the trains faster, the rates lower, the system better. Franklin was never satisfied with his knowledge. He was always reading, experimenting, debating. This is not unhappiness, it is drive. It is the belief that good is the enemy of great. The drifter is easily satisfied. He gets a little comfort and goes to sleep. The master stays awake because he knows that potential is infinite. He acts as if there is always another level. This keeps him young. This keeps him relevant. The moment you stop growing, you start dying. Enduring success is a commitment to eternal growth. Now, how do you cultivate this power? You must guard your mind against the contagion of cynicism. We live in a cynical world. It is cool to be detached. It is cool to mock effort. It is cool to be a victim. If you surround yourself with cynics, you will become one. Cynicism is the death of action. Why try if the game is rigged? Why try if everyone is corrupt? Vanderbilt and Franklin ignored the cynics. They built their own reality. You must do the same. You must curate your inputs. Turn off the news if it makes you feel helpless. Stop talking to friends who drain your energy. Read the biographies of great men and women. Fill your mind with evidence of possibility. You must become the guardian of your own hope. Optimism also fuels resilience. Resilience is not just bouncing back, it is bouncing forward. When Vanderbilt lost a ship, he built a better one. When Franklin's ideas were rejected, he refined them. They used the energy of the blow to propel them forward. Think of a tennis ball. The harder you throw it against the wall, the faster it comes back. Be the tennis ball. Do not be the egg that shatters. Be the ball that uses the impact to accelerate. Act as if every hit is just adding to your momentum. This requires a shift in identity. You must stop identifying as the victim of your circumstances and start identifying as the alchemist of your circumstances. Let us discuss the legacy mindset. Vanderbilt and Franklin were not just thinking about their next meal, they were thinking about the next century. Vanderbilt built the infrastructure of America. Franklin built the intellectual foundation of America. They acted as if their actions would echo in eternity. This gave their lives weight and gravity. When you act for the long term, you make better decisions. You don't cheat people because you know your reputation is your greatest asset. You don't cut corners Because you know the building must stand for 100 years, you build with granite, not straw. Ask yourself, if I knew my work would be seen by my great-grandchildren, how would I do it today? That is the standard of the master. There is a metaphysical truth here. The universe favors the bold optimist. It seems that luck finds the person who is prepared for it and expecting it. We call it serendipity. But serendipity is just the collision of preparation and opportunity. The optimist is always prepared because he believes the opportunity is coming. The pessimist is never prepared because he believes the disaster is coming. So when the opportunity walks by, the optimist grabs it and the pessimist misses it. Act as if the universe is conspiring to help you. This is a powerful psychological trick. If you believe the world is on your side, you move with confidence, you ask for help, you take risks, and because you do these things, you get results. Practical application. You need a daily optimism protocol. You cannot leave your attitude to chance. Every morning you must calibrate your mind. Vanderbilt didn't wake up and hope he felt ambitious. He reviewed his empire. Franklin woke up and asked, "What good shall I do this day?" You must start your day with a decree of expectation. Look in the mirror and say, "Something great is going to happen today, and I am going to make it happen." Visualize your obstacles crumbling. Visualize your victory. This primes your brain to see the gold in the mud. You must also practice reframing. This is the tool of the mental alchemist. When something bad happens, you must immediately reframe it. You lost a client? Reframe. This opens space for a better client. You got sick? Reframe. This is a chance to rest and rethink my strategy. You failed a test? Reframe. Now I know what I don't know. Never let a negative event stand naked in your mind. Clothe it in a positive meaning. This is how you maintain endurance. If you let the negatives pile up, they will break your back. If you reframe them, they become bricks for your castle. We are talking about a fundamental shift in your operating system. From survival to creation. The animal in you wants to survive. It is scared, cautious, and pessimistic. The God in you wants to create. It is bold, expansive, and optimistic. You must choose which voice to listen to. The voice of survival keeps you safe, but it keeps you small. The voice of creation puts you in danger, but it gives you the stars. Vanderbilt and Franklin listened to the voice of creation. They acted as if they were co-creators of the universe, and in doing so, they shaped the world we live in today. So, look at your life. Are you playing the short game or the long game? Are you letting a bad day ruin your week? Are you letting a bad year ruin your life? Stop it. Zoom out. Look at the timeline of your life. You have decades ahead of you. One defeat is a blip on the radar. Act as if you are writing a biography, and this chapter is just the conflict chapter before the triumph chapter. Every good story needs conflict. Do not be afraid of the drama. Embrace it. It makes the victory sweeter. Your future depends on this, not just your money, but your soul. If you lose your optimism, you lose your will to live. You become a shell. But if you protect your optimism, if you feed it, if you build it on the rock of fearless action, you become immortal, you become a force of nature. You become the person who lights the way for others. As we conclude this chapter, remember Cornelius Vanderbilt standing on the deck of his ferry boat dreaming of railroads. Remember Benjamin Franklin standing in the rain with a kite, dreaming of electricity. They did not know the future, but they trusted themselves to create it. They acted as if they could not fail, and because they did, they didn't. Now, we approach the final summit. We have the tools, we have the mindset, we have the examples. In the conclusion, we will issue the final decree. We will synthesize everything we have learned into a single, unbreakable command to your destiny. We will talk about the limitless future that awaits the person who dares to take this philosophy and live it. We stand now at the summit of our journey. We have traversed the frozen Alps with Hannibal. We have stood in the fiery steel mills of Carnegie. We have walked the battlefields with Grant and entered the boxing ring with Roosevelt. We have sat in the quiet study of Franklin and looked out at the rails of Vanderbilt. You have absorbed the philosophy of the Titans. You now possess the keys to the kingdom of self-mastery. But knowledge, no matter how profound, is merely potential power It is static energy waiting to be released. We have arrived at the moment of release. We have arrived at the final decree. This is the moment where the lesson ends and the life begins. This is the moment where you stop being a student of success and start being an embodiment of it. The question is no longer, what must I learn? The question is, who must I become? You are standing on the precipice of a limitless future. I use that word limitless not as a poetic exaggeration, but as a literal description of your potential once you remove the shackles of fear. We have established that limitations are manufactured in the mind. Therefore, if you dismantle the factory of fear in your mind, you stop manufacturing limits. When the factory stops producing doubts, the horizon opens up. You realize that the only thing holding you back from the life you know you are meant to live was the story you kept telling yourself about why you couldn't have it. That story ends today. The final decree is your pen, and the rest of your life is the blank page. You are about to write a masterpiece, but you must write it in ink, not pencil. You must write it with the permanence of conviction. Let us synthesize the avatar of power we have constructed. Imagine a human being who possesses the defiance of Hannibal, someone who looks at an impossible financial or personal obstacle and says, I will make a way. Combine that with the work ethic of Carnegie, someone who transmutes every hour of the day into golden knowledge and action. Add the resilience of Roosevelt, someone who treats confidence as a muscle to be torn and rebuilt daily. Infuse the strategic optimism of Vanderbilt, someone who plays the long game when everyone else is panicking. And finally, grounded in the faith of Susan B. Anthony, someone who ignores the laws of mediocrity to follow the laws of truth. This composite figure is who you are capable of becoming. In fact, it is who you already are, underneath the layers of conditioning, fear, and drift. The final decree is simply the act of shedding the old skin to reveal the master underneath. But I must warn you, the moment this video ends, the world will try to drag you back. The gravity of the 98% is strong. The drifters do not like it when one of their own starts to wake up. They will try to pull you back into the comfort of complaints, excuses, and cynicism. They will say, be realistic. They will say, who do you think you are? They will say, come back down to earth, you must be prepared for this. You must understand that your transformation is an act of rebellion against the average. When you act as if you cannot fail, you are declaring war on mediocrity. You are declaring that you refuse to participate in the collective hallucination of smallness. This requires a mental fortress. You must guard the door of your mind with the ferocity of a dragon guarding gold. You cannot let the doubts of others penetrate your decree. The final decree is this: I am no longer a victim of my circumstances. I am the architect of my destiny. This sounds simple, but to live it is the most difficult and rewarding task of a human life. It means taking radical responsibility. It means that if you are broke, it is your doing. If you are lonely, it is your doing. If you are unhappy, it is your doing. This is terrifying to the drifter, but it is liberating to the master. Because if you created the mess, you can create the masterpiece. If the power to destroy your life lies in your hands, then the power to build it also lies in your hands. You are stripping away the blame. You are stripping away the excuses. You are standing naked before the universe and saying, I am the cause. Let us discuss the concept of the quantum leap in identity. Most people try to change by increments. They try to be 10% better. The law of decree allows for a quantum leap. You can change your identity instantly. You do not have to wait 10 years to feel like a success. You can make the decision right now. You can decide that the old version of you, the one who procrastinates, the one who fears judgment, the one who plays small, died the moment you started watching this conclusion. You can step into the avatar of the master immediately. You can walk out of your door today with the posture of a king. You can speak with the cadence of a leader. You can treat your work with the precision of a surgeon. The world might be confused by this sudden shift. They might ask, what happened to you? You do not need to explain. You just need to demonstrate. The evidence of your transformation will be in your results. This future is limitless because your resourcefulness is limitless. When you operate from a state of acting as if, you tap into the infinite intelligence that Hill spoke of. You become a radio receiver for ideas that ordinary people cannot hear. Have you ever noticed that when you are in a state of flow and confidence, the right people just show up, the right book falls off the shelf, the right opportunity appears in your inbox? This is not magic. It is alignment. When you decree your destination, the universe mobilizes to help you get there. But the universe cannot help a moving target that keeps changing its mind. You must be fixed. You must be resolute. You must signal to the cosmos, I am going there, and I am not turning back. We must address the fear of greatness. Marianne Williamson famously said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." Why do we fear power? Because power demands action. If you admit you are powerful, you have no excuse for sitting on the couch. If you admit you are a genius, you have no excuse for not creating. If you admit you are a leader, you have no excuse for following. To accept the final decree is to accept the burden of your own potential. It means you can no longer hide. You can no longer play the victim card. You must step into the light and let yourself be seen. This is scary. But the alternative is to rot in the dark. The alternative is to reach the end of your life and meet the person you could have been and realize that you never met him because you were too afraid to say hello to your own power. Let us look at the timeline of legacy. You have a finite amount of time on this earth. The clock is ticking. Every second that passes is a second you will never get back. The drifter kills time. The master invests time. When you act as if you cannot fail, you develop a new relationship with time. You become urgent, but not anxious. You realize that you are building a cathedral that might stand long after you are gone. Vanderbilt built railroads that we still use. Franklin built ideas that we still quote. What are you building? It doesn't have to be a railroad. It could be a family culture of excellence. It could be a business that serves thousands. It could be a body of art that inspires. Whatever it is, build it with the mindset of permanence. Act as if your work matters. Act as if the world is waiting for your contribution. Because it is. The final decree also involves the burning of the script. Society has handed you a script since the day you were born. The script says, go to school, get a safe job, get married, pay taxes, retire, die. It is a boring script. It is a script written for sheep. To live a limitless future, you must take that script and burn it. You must write your own. You must be the director, the producer, and the star of your own movie. If you don't like the scene you are in, yell cut and rewrite it. If you don't like the character you are playing, change the character. You have the creative license to be whoever you want. But you must have the courage to pick up the pen. Most people are waiting for someone else to write their next chapter. No one is coming. You are the author. Consider the standard of the thermostat one last time. The final decree is the act of setting your internal thermostat to maximum. You are no longer willing to tolerate mediocrity in yourself. You are no longer willing to tolerate half-hearted efforts. You demand excellence, not perfection. Perfection is a trap, but excellence. Excellence means doing your absolute best with what you have. It means showing up fully. It means keeping your word. It means finishing what you start. When you raise your standard, you raise your life. High standards repel low-quality people and attract high-quality people. You will find that your friend circle changes. You will find that your opportunities improve. Why? Because water seeks its own level. If you are operating at level 10, you will attract level 10 situations. If you stay at level 2, you will attract level 2 drama. Let us practice the mirror test. I want you to imagine standing in front of a mirror tonight. I want you to look into your own eyes. Who do you see? Do you see the scared child? Or do you see the master? The final decree is a promise you make to that reflection. You look yourself in the eye and say, I will not let you down. The most important relationship you will ever have is the relationship with yourself. If you trust yourself, you can conquer the world. If you betray yourself, the world will conquer you. Acting as if you cannot fail is the ultimate act of self-love. It is saying, I love myself enough to bet on myself. I love myself enough to take the risk. We must also talk about the ripple effect. You might think this journey is just about you. It is not. Your self-mastery is a gift to the world. When you become fearless, you give others permission to be fearless. When you succeed, You show others it is possible. Your children are watching. Your neighbors are watching. You are a lighthouse. If your light is dim, ships crash. If your light is bright, ships find the harbor. By playing small, you serve no one. By playing big, you serve everyone. The limitless future is not just about your personal wealth or glory. It is about the impact you will have on the consciousness of those around you. You are raising the vibration of the planet by raising your own. Now, let us discuss the inevitability of success. When you truly integrate the law of decree, success becomes inevitable. It might not happen on your timeline. It might not look exactly how you imagined, but it will happen. Why? Because you will not stop until it does. The only way to fail is to quit. If you refuse to quit, you cannot fail. You can only be delayed. The master treats delays as training periods. He treats obstacles as weight training. He treats silence as meditation. Everything serves the mission. When you adopt the belief that the universe is rigged in my favor, you move with a swagger. You interpret every event as a stepping stone. This makes you unbreakable. You become anti-fragile. The more you are hit, the stronger you get. I want you to visualize your future self 5 years from now. Imagine the person who has lived by this code for 1,825 days. How do they look? How do they stand? What have they built? That person is waiting for you. They are cheering for you. They are begging you not to give up. They exist in the quantum field of possibility. To bring them into reality, you just have to start walking. You just have to take the first step of the Hannibal principle. You just have to light the fire of alchemy. You just have to build the muscle of confidence. The path is laid out. The map is in your hands. But you must also be wary of the comfort zone trap. As you begin to succeed, you will get comfortable. You will achieve some goals. You will make some money. The temptation will be to stop climbing, to set up camp on the side of the mountain and say, "This is good enough." The final decree forbids this. Good enough is the enemy of limitless. You must remain hungry. You must remain foolish. You must continue to set new impossible goals, not because you are greedy, but because you are an explorer of human potential. You want to see how far you can go. You want to see what is on the other side of the next mountain. The master never retires. He just changes missions. Let us bring this down to the daily oath. To live this decree, you need a daily ritual. Every morning before you face the world, you must renew your vows to yourself. You must say, "Today, I act as if I cannot fail. Today, I am the cause. Today, I am the solution." You must armor up before you step onto the battlefield. If you go out into the world naked, the negativity will pierce you. If you go out armored in your decree, the negativity will bounce off. This is not a one-time decision. It is a daily discipline. The shower cleans your body, the decree cleans your mind. Do not skip it. There is a peace that comes with this level of resolve. When you are constantly doubting, you are anxious. When you decide once and for all that you are going to the top, the anxiety fades. You have a plan. You have a purpose. You are just executing. The noise of the world quiets down. You enter a state of flow. In this state, work feels like play. Struggle feels like sport. You are aligned with your true nature. You are doing what you were designed to do. This peace is the highest form of success. It is the sleep of the just. It is the calmness of the lion. You are now in possession of a dangerous truth, the truth that you are powerful beyond measure. What will you do with it? Will you go back to sleep? Will you pretend you never heard this? Or will you wake up? The red pill has been offered. If you take it, you cannot go back to the matrix of drifting. You will see the strings on the puppets. You will see the walls for what they are, illusions. You will be free. But freedom is a burden. It means you are responsible for everything. Are you ready for that weight? I believe you are. I believe you were born for it. So, let us seal this decree. Imagine I am handing you a pen. The contract of your life is in front of you. The old contract said drifter, crossing it out. Write master, sign your name, date it today. This is a binding legal document between you and the universe. You have declared your intent. Now, the universe is waiting for your move. Go out there and move. Move with violence of action. Move with absolute certainty. Move as if the ground will appear beneath your feet. Move as if angels are guarding your path. Move as if failure is an impossibility. Because in the mind of the master it is. The Alps are waiting. The laboratory is waiting. The arena is waiting. Your legacy is waiting. Do not keep them waiting a second longer. As you step forward into this limitless future, carry this final thought with you. The world makes way for the man who knows where he is going. You know where you are going. You are going to the top. And nothing, not the mountains, not the critics, not the ghosts of fear can stop you. You are the decree. You are the power. You are the future. Act now. Act boldly. Act forever. You have heard the decree. The philosophy is clear. But remember, a thought without continuity is just a ghost. To truly install these habits, you must immerse yourself in this thinking daily. You must feed the fire before it goes cold. I have prepared another deep dive into the laws of success right here on this screen. It is the next step in your evolution. If you are ready to keep the momentum going and refuse to drift, click the video now. Do not stop. Keep climbing. I will see you there.